Joining us, we have attorney at law, Mr. Brian Baig. A pleasant good evening to you, sir.
Hi, good evening, Mikey. I hope you can hear me.
All right, and if you're anywhere close to noise, if you could just shift, that'll be fine.
Yes, I hope this is better.
It's a lot better. We thank you so much for taking time out to link with us. As always here, it's always a pleasure here on The Observer to have you.
Pleasure to always be on your program, sir.
Thank you. So much is going on, and I asked the question, and I know a lot of our citizens have been asking, who is Brent Thomas? How did this come about? And why are we getting a geopolitical black eye and some sort, well, I should say, all this negativity in the media that seems to not be adding up? Give us, expand on that for us.
Well, first of all, a pleasant good night to you and good night to your viewers and listeners. But what we know about Mr. Brent Thomas is a gentleman who is a legitimate businessman, who has a legitimate business. He deals with legal tender of firearms, and we are now hearing that this gentleman, this man, was abducted by the TTPS in Barbados. And I have to ask the question: is your constitutional right suspended when you leave a country? And I'll answer my own question. The answer is no. Your constitutional right goes with you wherever you go. Because from what this basically is being said by the state, is that once you leave a country, you're stateless. That's rubbish. Total nonsense, Mikey.
Yeah, but I mean, there's so many questions that are being raised here. Even in today's newspaper, they said, how to begin with, could the TTPS fail to prevent someone from leaving the country only to seek to have them deported? Now that such an operation could then be carried out outside the knowledge of government officials is an indictment on both nations. It goes on to say, yeah, go on.
It is very much an eyebrow raiser. Because first of all, when you're talking about the issue of deportation and things like that, there is the Office of the Attorney General that is very much involved with that, right? And we must understand that what role did the Office of the Attorney General have to play then, since they're using this word of deportation, right? Further to that, right? This government is basically saying that there was an elite force of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service that led this exercise, and I'm sure you heard about that as well, right? And I must ask, as a practicing attorney at law, especially in the criminal court, who is this elite force? Who have they arrested before? Who have they brought to court? Who is the head of this unit? Is the head of this unit an inspector, acting superintendent, a sergeant, a corporal, a constable? Where is this unit? Where has this unit popped up all of a sudden? I can tell you, I've never heard of this type of unit. And you have now the Commissioner of Police, Mike, has now come and said she's going to have an investigation. So it is clear that even the Commissioner of Police doesn't even know what's going on in her own police service. That you have to now do an investigation. And also, the Police Complaints Authority has come into this because it is a fact that what has been done is very much in breach of Mr. Thomas's constitutional right. Because you must understand, sections 4 and 5 of the Constitution, it goes with you wherever you go, my friend. And those two rights that come straight to my brain is one, the right to the freedom of movement, my friend. Right? Freedom of movement comes in there. And then you also have what's called the right of liberty. That the minute those silver bracelets, as I like to call them, is put on your hands, is that your right of liberty, your right of freedom is taken away. So how in the world could this have happened? And then to listen to, unless you have something else to ask, or should I continue?
No, let me interject here. Now, the Barbados Attorney General is blaming the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, CARICOM Impact, as far as showing that whatever it was not done above board. He made it quite clear, his name is Dale Marshall, he yesterday made it clear that his government was not to blame in the highly controversial October 2022 arrest of Trinidadian Brent Thomas in Barbados, and his subsequent transfer to TNT. Now, the language is starting to change. We were hearing not abduction, but transfer. Fine. Speaking in the Barbadian Parliament yesterday, he sought to clear the air in the matter, saying that neither Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley nor Barbadian Prime Minister Mia Mottley were informed or aware of Thomas' transfer to TNT from Barbados.
Well, the Attorney General of Barbados has come out batting for his Prime Minister, right? Because they are basically pulling themselves out of the situation. But no one cannot tell me. I mean, I've served in government before. I worked at the Office of the Attorney General before. No one cannot tell me that no person of the position of the Prime Minister, or at least that of the Attorney General, or even that of a Minister of National Security, is not aware of the situation. That's entirely impossible, because of the fact that it is leading to where a gentleman was taken out of a country, right? And again, how and what you're saying is transferred? Boss, there's not like baggage, you know. You don't transfer a human being, right? But he was transferred from what? Was he a public servant? He was being transferred from this department to another department, or from this ministry to another ministry? No, that's playing with semantics, and that's playing smart with foolishness. And further to that, I listened attentively. Unfortunately, I had no choice but to.
Right.
To our Minister of National Security, Fitzgerald Hines. And I listened to the comments he had to say, especially with that of the ruling from Justice Davinder Rampasad, a judge who I have appeared before many times, a very senior judge as well, and a man who is known for his judicial rulings. And the comments of that Mr. Hines, Minister Hines, to say towards the judiciary of this country, I want to tell Minister Hines that not only should you apologize, as what LAT has said, the Law Association of Trinidad and Tobago, I mean, you should not only apologize, but he needs to resign, Mike, because this is a man who's also a senior attorney as well. He is an attorney at law, and to know that you cast such aspersion upon the judiciary cannot be accepted, ought not to be accepted, and should not be accepted.
No,
and as a practicing attorney myself,
yeah.
I condemn those statements of the highest nature.
Now, let's put things in perspective here, especially for the layman, because the citizens are watching and they're saying to themselves, listen, we're not legally inclined, but we do see what's playing out here. We're seeing that two nations are saying that their leaders were in the dark, both prime ministers were in the dark, they had no idea who is Brent Thomas. It's quite clear that he's someone of interest to the point where allegations that somebody circumvented the entire law as far as how one is to be extradited, how the process is supposed to go. Now, also playing out is the fact that this entire issue took place in Barbados. You have a prime minister returning to his home soil and saying upon arrival that the prime minister in Barbados knew he was coming to our islands since she had attended the recent CARICOM Crime Symposium in this country. So she put some things in place for me that's quite normal. That's not going down well with the general public because, again, as much as they may not be legally inclined, they are seeing these things play out. And what does that mean for them?
If they are saying that this is extradition, extradition has its own process to follow, right? And if the extradition was done by way, was there a court proceeding for extradition to be done? Because I can speak on that, having worked at the AG's office, that the extradition is done through the AG's office, right? And was that even done through there? And if it was an extradition, was there charges for Mr. Thomas? And how is it that the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service reaching Barbados? Extradition will be done by the state country, and they pass you on, right? And it goes forward. But for you to come and say that means that the Attorney General of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago had to know if you're saying extradition. Further to that, right? You cannot just take a man just like that. Because again, constitutional right is there for him. So they're playing smart with foolishness, Mikey, by hiding behind that word called extradition. Because I want to know who represented Mr. Thomas in Barbados in the extradition proceedings. We all know that there's a famous extradition proceedings in Trinidad, and we've all followed, and nobody in Trinidad can tell me, I don't know we have a very famous matter right now in Trinidad going on concerning extradition, right? And further to that, this government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, they dealt with where they get carry complaint. Who would know about that? The Minister of National Security had to know about that. And he can't say he didn't know anything about that. That's wrong. And we must call them up on what they're doing and that they are lying to the nation. And I'm happy that Mr. Brent Thomas has done what he knows to do, is to take this matter to court because of the fact that his rights was infringed upon him.
All right. And again, we the citizens, again, still remain in the dark, but more that is being spoken about it, the more it's spoken about, it's quite clear that we are going to be quite in the dark for quite some time, because here it is that the council, which reports to the lead CARICOM head of government, responsible for crime and security, they have to report to the CARICOM head of government responsible for crime and security. Our own Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Rowley, was holding that position in October last year when this entire incident took place.
Happened. Correct. So how could he not have known? He had to know, right? I mean, you see, it shows again, Mikey, that when you try to evade the truth, you are caught. And again, how in the world could this government do this? Because if they can do this to Mr. Brent Thomas, Mikey, what is stopping them from doing it to either you or me or the normal man on the street? It is ridiculous. It is very, very ridiculous. And I must applaud. I must applaud his lawyers for doing what they had to do.
And let me touch on this other issue here. As you mentioned, of course, the fact that, running from the truth, and it's a bit cloudy at times. Our Attorney General, Reginald Lamar, says he never consulted with the Law Association, LAT, on the 18 attorneys who were appointed as senior counsels earlier this week. Rather, he merely invited the professional body to hold discussions on the issue. What are we missing here? I mean, was it an invitation? Was it something confirmed? Did they sit down? Did they have some consultation, some sort of discussion, and decided, okay, we agree, we think this is best? What are we taking away from what the AG is saying as far as the invite, having intentions, and was not consulted?
Well, what I would say, I'm sure that the Law Association will respond to the learned Attorney General, who is of the rank of senior counsel himself, right? And I'm trying to understand what is the difference between invited and consultation, and also to say an invitation is consultation. How? I don't understand that. It stands out as being a bit confusing. The issue of that of senior counsel who all have been appointed. For me, my concern is that I would have expected, and I must quote another senior counsel did speak on it, that if there is persons who are linked to the president, I would have expected that she did the right thing, because she's also a practicing attorney at law herself, right? That she should have known to recuse herself from that appointment, because of the fact it is so glaring. It is a little too glaring from my thing, right? I won't go further.
But let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, Mr. Baig. Is it that based on the sensitivity of the topic or the issue, that one would have thought that there would be some sort of consultation, or is this normal procedure? Does the Attorney General, I mean, based on your experience, does he or she reach out to the Law Association to say, listen, these are the names, these are the people we're considering, and they discuss that issue?
Well, from my understanding, and I'm open to always be corrected, is that especially with the nature of who was being appointed, Silk, that the consultations should have happened to ensure that this is done proper. Because again, it is very glaring to see that a brother and a husband of a sitting president was appointed. But I will not venture further into that, because I am not at the level of senior counsel, and I must, and as I said, that senior counsel Avery Sininan himself spoke out on it, as he himself is of a rank of senior counsel, as stated, that that is basically, it's puppy showing the profession back. Because, I mean, who's next? Who are you going to put next?
And that's a good question. And again, what does that mean for us as citizens? I mean, when these decisions are being made, there's a lot of so-called verbal flip-flopping. It lacks a lot of clarity, but the smoke suddenly dies down, and that's it. I mean, are these things taking place because there's no process or any way to redress the matter once it has been decided that this is the way it's going to go? So what does that say for us as citizens?
Well, it says that it seems as though anything can happen with this government. I mean, I will never question the ability of these persons or the level of years that they have practiced. But we must also understand is that when these things happen, persons will then get to say, will then raise their hands up in the air and say, well, why did you do it like that? And why do you do it so, to say it in local parlance, you do it so bold-faced and brass-faced? Because had it been anybody else had done that, I'm sure that those individuals who hold certain office in this country, they would have jumped up one time and said, look, somebody, look that man appointed his sister, his brother, his cousin, his nenen. But the thing is that, well, if you don't like it, why would you have done it yourself?
Yeah, and I think basically what is being communicated here for quite some time is that you have those who would say, listen, that's wrong. It's morally wrong. It's ethically wrong. It's just wrong, the entire process. And the reply seems to be, don't study them. And how long are we going to go on like this?
And my friend, that is the workings of our dictatorship. Where that when you say, hey, Mikee should not get that. Well, who's you? We ain't listening to you. And that is wrong. We are a democracy, and we are entitled to speak out on things. That does not look right, that does not look proper. And we should be allowed to say what we have to say. I am certain that the Law Association will respond to the Learned Attorney General, as they did already respond.
Yes.
And I'm sure they will come back and respond. And I must however, congratulate the Law Association for being very vocal these days.
Seems that way. Any closing comments? Go right ahead, please.
Well, as I said, with this whole matter with Brent Thomas, of the substantive matter that you had me for, is that this cannot happen and should not have happened. This falls into another legal debuggle that this government has led us into. It is the taxpayers of the country who will have to pay for this. What if judgment is granted in the favor of Mr. Thomas? And I am saying again, that Fitzgerald Hines, the comments that you made about the judiciary, sir, you not only should apologize, but you need to resign. Because one day you will appear before those same judges, because you will not always be a minister in government. And you can only imagine that you have made it sound, you have cast your own profession into major dispute. And I was hoping that one day the Lord Chief Justice would speak on this matter. I hope he does. And condemn such comments as well. I thank you for having me. And as always, I will make myself available to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Baig. It's been a pleasure as always. Best of luck to you and the entire team. Thank you so much for taking time out.
Thank you.
Thank you.